Welcome to the Picky Girl Travels podcast, the show for Black women who want more out of life and to live it as they see fit. The message here is all about defying convention, embracing adventure, and regretting absolutely nothing. I'm your host, Adelia Borishade of the blog pickygirltravelstheworld.com. Most of y'all know that I moved abroad about 4 years ago in 2016, and I would definitely say I have seen an increase in the number of people who are interested in doing the same thing. There are two questions that I get a lot, that I see a lot in the various Facebook groups and forums that I'm in. You know, what do you do for a living? What kind of jobs are there that would allow me to live abroad? But the thing is, answering that question for somebody is not straightforward, because the answer really depends on some variables like what's your skill set. I think this is probably the most important one, because you don't necessarily have to find the same job title that you currently have. You don't have to find that abroad. You could apply for something in a completely different career path, but it uses a skill set that you have. So really, we've got to kind of switch our mentality and stop thinking about titles and think more about skills that are transferable. Something else that's going to impact what you can do abroad is your level of education. Yes, there are some positions where you need to have a master's, you need to have a bachelor's, but there are quite a few opportunities for people who don't have a degree. You can work at a U.S. embassy in the administrative realm, and you don't need a bachelor's degree for that. If you want to work in tech, you don't necessarily need a bachelor's degree. What really matters is what can you do? And then for certain jobs, do you have the right certification? That's more important than anything else. Another area to think about is what country is your passport from? The majority of my audience is from the U.S. and has U.S. passports, but there may be some people who have other passports. This becomes an issue because for some countries, the kind of visas that they will give you are dependent on what is your passport country. Like, for example, my visa here in China has a specific list of countries that they are allowed to grant that visa to people from those countries. So that can play a minor role. It just depends on the country you're trying to go to, as well as what kind of work are you trying to do. Another thing to think about, or that figures into how can you support yourself abroad, or what are your earning expectations? Can you go abroad and make the kind of money you would make in the United States? Absolutely. But if that's super important, that is going to impact which countries are appropriate for you to pursue. Because the cost of living is generally cheaper outside the United States, you can have a really nice life and make a fraction of what you're making in the U.S. If you are more flexible about earning expectations, that then gives you a much broader range of opportunities that you could pursue, as well as countries that you can pursue those opportunities in. And then ultimately, you've also got to figure in what are the country's policies. Like, there are some countries that limit the number of visas they give. They limit the number of foreigners they allow into a country, or whether they allow foreigners in at all. That is going to impact what you can do to make money abroad. So, I wish I had a simple answer for people about, well, here, these are the jobs you can do, and you do this, and that can take you abroad. The answer to that question is very individual. So you really have to look at your individual situation. But to help you with that, over the next few weeks on the podcast, we are going to talk about all of these things, but specifically through the lens of Black women sharing their experiences of how they were able to earn money to live abroad. This week, we will focus on the field that allowed me to make my transition into expat life, and that's teaching. Before I moved to Honduras back in 2016, I had worked in K-12 education for 19 years, most of that time spent teaching some form of social studies or working as an instructional technologist. There are schools all over the world who make money by offering an international education to their students. So if you are a certified teacher from an English speaking country, there is a big demand for you and your services. I mean, at least there was before COVID-19. Honestly, I expect that that demand will still be there, or it will recover once the pandemic is under control. But, right now things are a little crazy with so many countries' borders being closed and people not being able to move. But I don't think that COVID-19 is going to have any kind of long-term impact on the number of teachers who can pursue jobs abroad. If you want to teach abroad, and that also includes like principals, counselors, you've got several options. There are what you will hear us refer to as true international schools. This would be like the American School of blah, blah, blah. This would be the school where the kids' parents like work at the embassy, or they work for an NGO or something like that, or their parents are on a corporate, I'm losing my words. If their parents are corporate expats, like that's how they relocated to the country. There are also local schools that have what they call international programs. So it's probably a public school, quite possibly. It might be a private school, but they specifically have a program where they are having classes taught in English by foreign instructors. There are private schools, and then in some countries, they actually hire foreign teachers to teach at the public schools. In all of these situations, instruction is done in English. So that's why they want teachers from English speaking countries. They always are looking for native English speakers. In Honduras, I worked at a very, very, very small international school. For the hot second that I was working in Kuwait, I was at a private school. I didn't know it at the time, but that private school had a very poor reputation, which I'm not surprised by at all. And then here in China, the school I work at here is kind of a hybrid. It's not a public school. It's not a private school. It is an offshore Canadian school. So it's kind of somewhere between. It's like if a public school and an international school had a baby, that would be the kind of school that I work at. But the point here is that there are lots of options. I know that there are a lot of teachers in the US who are really tired of the BS that comes with working in the US public school system, but they still want to teach. And so for them, going abroad might be a good option. I feel like it's because I was going to say in some of the Facebook groups that I'm in, it sounds like I spend my entire life on Facebook. So I may need to readdress that. But in a lot of the Facebook groups that I'm in, people are often asking questions like, I want to teach abroad. Where do I start? And so, because I saw the same question over and over and over again, I started to pull together everything I've learned over the last 4 years into an ebook for people who want to teach abroad. And the way I structured the book, I did it around the most frequently asked questions that people looking to get into international teaching have. And then I also included links to different resources that can be used in getting a job, planning a move outside the U.S. internationally. So I finished that book. I've published it. It's on my website, pickygirltravelstheworld.com, but it's also available in Kindle on Amazon. Before the pandemic, I reached out to a couple of my expat teacher friends, Tiffany and Megan, and I had grand plans to interview them and post those interviews on my YouTube channel. And if you're thinking to yourself, like, wow, I didn't know Adelia had a YouTube channel. That's because I don't. I have not been able to get my life together enough to do YouTube, but I thought there was some very valuable information in those conversations. So I have repurposed those conversations for this podcast episode. And then I also spoke to another teacher friend, Tia, more recently. So when you listen to it, you'll hear us kind of allude to the events that are currently taking place in the US. So here's my interview with Megan, who I originally met when I was living in Mexico City, and then our paths crossed again when I was living in Kuwait and I was visiting Bahrain one weekend. So where are you right now?
Right now I'm in South Africa. Today I flew from Cape Town to Johannesburg, and we will be here until next week. I will be leaving on the 2nd, going back to Bahrain because we have to start school on the 6th. The 6th? Okay. Yeah, that's a Sunday, then the 6th, yeah.
Where are you from? I don't think I know that.
I'm from Albany, Georgia, which is like southwest Georgia. It's right above the Florida Panhandle. Mm-hmm. But I was born in Fort Worth, lived in Dallas for a number of years, and then we moved to Georgia. But I say I'm from Atlanta because
nobody knows where Albany is.
Exactly. So I call it.
Okay. Yeah. And you just mentioned it, you teach in Bahrain?
Yes.
Okay. And is this your first teaching job internationally?
This is my 4th teaching job internationally. I taught in Shanghai for almost 5 years. The first school was at the French school, which in Puxi, which is on the west side of Shanghai. And then I taught at Shanghai Livingston American School. After that, I moved to Saudi Arabia. I taught in Riyadh for a no-name school for about half a year. Then I left them because I wasn't going to do it. And went to a job fair in New York and then came to Bahrain in the fall to work with reviews.
Okay. And what kind of school would you say that is? Like if somebody is watching this and they don't know anything about the kind of schools that you can teach at internationally, what kind of school is it that you work at in Bahrain?
I work at, I would say, upper mid-tier international school. I say mid-tier because of the student population that they admit and the academic standards. But it's one where the demographic is quite diverse. Lots of Americans, lots of European students. They offer a decent package for anyone looking to save money. You know, I don't have to worry about my insurance or where I'm going to live. I live in a nice place. I've always lived in a nice place. The salary's okay. And the school grounds, they actually have facilities. So that's the kind of school that I work in and that I would suggest people to try to aim for. But I would tell people that if you look at a school, the best indicator of whether that school is worth its salt is the quality of the students who are being admitted to that school in recent years. If you ask whoever you're talking to, ask them if they have IB, AP, whatever, what are the average IB scores? What percentage of the students take the full IB? What's the retention rate for the students? And where do the students go if they leave that school? That's really important. And that will tell you what kind of school you're going to.
Yeah. That's excellent advice. Excellent advice. Now, how long had you taught before you moved abroad?
0 days, 0 hours.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. I actually, my major is in accounting and finance. So when I graduated university, I was working for an accounting firm, a very large one at that. And then, but I had decided that I didn't want to do accounting anymore, but I wanted to finish my degree. That's why I finished my degree. I got certified through alternative certification in the state of Florida, and then got a job teaching math.
I was just telling somebody today, math teachers can write their own ticket. So there you go. Because
I would say math teachers with a husband or wife can write their own ticket with a teaching partner. A teaching partner.
Okay.
It's hard out here for single math teachers.
As a social studies person, there's no way I could have gotten a job fresh off certification. I don't think that would have happened.
Oh yeah, there's no way. It would never have happened. No, never.
Why did you choose to move abroad in the first place?
I was looking for a change. Had a lot of personal things going on, just a lot of just family drama and just internal conflicts. And I just felt like, and actually, my alumni, something's on me. My alumni was in Japan at the time, and he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, Megan, if you want to take a break after you graduate, I know you're in the job hunt and everything. Maybe you should think about going overseas for a year." And I was like, I don't know. And then I just researched it. And originally I was going to go to Korea, but I couldn't get a visa, and then I ended up in China. But the reason why I decided to actually pursue the whole abroad thing after my alumni reached out to me is because, again, I was having all these issues, and I just felt like, man, I just need a change. I can't do this anymore. It's too much. I need a total shift. And in my mind, I literally thought, I need to be put in a situation where I don't have anybody and I only have myself to lean on. And the reason why I felt that way is because I felt like I was too, not dependent, but I had too many strings attached to the people who were around me. And I wasn't able to fully be independent in a way that I could take control of my emotional well-being, if that makes sense. So I thought that at the time, and thank God I thought that, because that pushed me overseas, and I'm really glad that I made the decision that I did.
What would you say is the biggest difference? Well, never mind. I guess you can't answer this question. Did you do student teaching?
I did.
Okay,
I
so
did.
maybe you can. What would you say is the biggest difference between teaching abroad and teaching in the U.S.?
I would put the difference more on, for me, more on the social aspect rather than the educational aspect. Socially, I can do more. I can go out more. I can travel more. I can experience different things. I meet people who are like-minded. My life doesn't have to revolve around my job. Like, I can do a lot of different things, but that's also because I work at a real school. So when you work at a real international school, you can have a life outside of your job. Educationally speaking, if I compare my experience to experience of my other student teachers who are in my same cohort, for them, because they were in public schools, I was in a private boarding school. They were in a public school. I would say access to resources would be the biggest difference, because a lot of these public schools are in high tax neighborhoods, and they just don't have the resources. They don't have the updated smart boards. They don't have the manipulatives. If you teach math or science, they don't have, the parents can afford a lot of things for the kids. So, they really rely on you to supplement what the classroom needs. And I've had one situation where I didn't have a pencil to my name, but everywhere else I can get everything that I wanted and needed,
And that's because you're at a real international school now. Of the 4 schools you worked at, were they all true international schools?
No.
Okay. Okay.
The school in Saudi Arabia, I will never give them any shine, okay? When I tell you I had to scavenge for every pencil, eraser, pen, calculator, and my principal had never tell me, make sure you turn off the smart board. If that light bulb goes out, we're not replacing it. You have to pay for it.
Oh, God. Now,
and it's not even a brand new light bulb.
So yeah, who knows how many hours that bad boy's been running?
Right. Y'all probably had it on the whole summer, and then when I get here, you're waiting for me to replace it. No.
Now, and that's something we keep mentioning. A true international school versus a school that isn't. And I know that there is not a single definition of that, but for you, what would you describe as something that is a true international school?
A true international school, whether it's profit or not, is a school that places the students' learning first and seeks opportunities to expand their learning in all facets, including increasing and looking after the well-being of their teachers, the wellness of their teachers, placing a high emphasis on retention among teachers, making sure that there are opportunities for growth for the staff, making sure that the people who are in the faculty, in the staff, not the faculty, also are taken care of in a professional standpoint. And a school that does those things is a real school, because they will not shortchange when it comes to making opportunities for students to learn well at their own pace and at a level that they can attain and also reach to. The schools like that will have every resource imaginable. They're good stewards of their money, because they have goals to attain. They pay you on time. They house you in adequate housing. It may not be the best housing in the world, but it's adequate. They make sure that your life needs are met, so you're not having to sacrifice, having Wi-Fi at your home because you need to go to work. They make sure that your visas are taken care of, because they don't want anything to stop the teacher from going to the classroom and doing their job and being there for the students.
Thinking of my own personal experience, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's they take care of you, like visas. They're making sure that you can do your job. Yeah.
Any school that makes it seem hard for you to get a visa or tell you anything like, whew, but when you figure it out, let me know. Any school that don't answer the phone,
yeah,
reply to emails 3-4 days late and stuff, and they know you got visas and stuff to do. Any school that don't immediately say we're gonna hand you cash the first day you get there, we're gonna reimburse you within 7 days upon arrival. Any school like that, no. Leave them alone,
the
child.
big thing. If they're hee-hawing around with your visa, walk away.
Walk away.
Walk away.
Walk away. Don't even respond. Just walk. Just
No. What do you wish you had known before you moved abroad to teach, or just moving abroad in general? Either one.
That's a hard question to ask, because I feel like I've been lucky in the sense of like I've never had to fight for my paycheck, or only once. I've never had to. So I feel like I don't know if there's anything that would say I wish I would have known, because I feel like things are laid out for me in a way. I wish I would have saved my money better. There you go. I wish I would have known how to be a better steward of the salary that I was getting.
Yeah, because if you don't have a plan before you come, it's very easy that once you start getting paid, to be like, oh, I could book a flight here. I could buy this. Oh, let me just order something out to eat. Yeah. What would you say is the best part of teaching abroad?
Okay. From a personal standpoint, I feel like I've just grown a lot over the years. And I feel like the baggage that I had when I got to China, I don't have anymore. I was able to take the time away from the stressors of being in America, those things that we just don't think about that stress you out. And I was able to really focus on myself. And that's one thing that I think everyone can take advantage of while they're overseas. If you have anything going on, you really have the time now overseas to focus on what you need, what you want, where you want to go, who you want to talk to, who you want to deal with, and you can cultivate relationships that are important to you, that serve you. And I think that's the best thing that has happened for me. I also put the work in, but things happened for me while being abroad. Teaching, I would just say that I'm happy to be able to share Melanin Magic to young students around the globe, and to introduce them to a whole new type of person, a whole new culture that they've never seen before. And I feel like I'm doing my part to help. I'm doing a bit of my part in that, because my students, they see me and they see our race through me. And I feel like I've helped to mold more of their perception of us and their parents as well, which I'm proud of.
So then what would you say is the worst part of teaching abroad or being abroad?
Personally, you do feel alone at times. There's a lot of because people here or anywhere, they're transient. They're not staying for a while. And as you get older, you place less importance on people who are not going to be there for a while. Like you just kind of you tend to draw into yourself more. I feel so it can feel quite lonely at times, unless you have a steady friend circle and you keep things going on in life. And another bad part as far as the teaching aspect is it's not stable. It's okay, depending on where you are, it's not stable, because the direction of these schools changes with every new director, every new principal, or every new HR manager. So and then the financial stability of these schools changes too, unless you're at certain type of schools. So you could be somewhere for 3 or 4 years and all of a sudden we're insolvent. You could be somewhere, everything's all expensive pay, and then the next thing you know, child enrollment drop, we ain't got no money. Or
no, that's why I had to leave Honduras. That's exactly why, because enrollment was dropping and they were like, we need you to pick up these extra 5 classes. We've restructured.
Oh, there's that too. There's the, hey, you can teach 28 classes a week, no problem. We're paying you, right? Yeah. You don't have a union to protect you. You don't have, in China, yes, you do have, especially in Shanghai, yes, you do have protection, but you have to seek that protection out, and it takes a while, and you have to have a little bit of money, and you may not be able to sustain that. It's a lot. If you're poor or if you're not saving your money like that, it's hard to really reach stability at some of these places.
How long do you plan to stay abroad teaching?
Maybe a year or 2.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. I want to go home.
Okay. So when you're done when you're done teaching abroad, your plan is to go home. You don't plan to stop teaching and stay abroad.
I also plan to stop teaching. It just depends if I can get a good placement. If I can't get into a certain type of school back at home, I will take my ball and go home.
You've got a skill set that you can find a place that would be appropriate for you. So I'm not worried about you.
I can go work for the federal government. I mean, they have instructor positions, I can find something. Luckily, I'm in a position where I don't have to be so pressed. I have somewhere to stay and that kind of thing. So
what advice do you have, or would you give somebody who is interested in teaching abroad? And I'm not talking about ESL. I'm talking about a certified teacher.
If you are a certified teacher, spend the money, go through an agency, the end. But when you go through that agency, don't just say, oh, all these schools are vetted, therefore I can work in it. No, do your research, which means network. Use Facebook, use LinkedIn, use whatever. Ask for references. Go to the groups online. Ask people who work there. Well, craft questions, and then ask people who work there what the real deal is, and then just go. I wouldn't say go with no money. Definitely have you can do it with no money, but I would say have $2,000, try to get $2,000 and just keep it in your account. Don't use it just for incidentals or just for startup costs, and then pay your $2,000 back over the course of the year as you get paid. Just keep that there for moving expenses later on. And then I would say just don't expect anything. Go with as little expectations as possible. That way, when you get to your new country, you don't have to feel like it's not meeting your standard. Whatever they have to offer, just accept it. You don't have to agree with it. That's fine. Accept whatever they have to offer you. And then take what you can, and what you can't, you just leave it. Like in China, I didn't like everything. I took what I felt was beneficial to me. Everything else, I left it. When
you made the comment about, have a little money when you go, because I see so many people post about, well, they're on their last and they're, wondering when they're going to get that advance when they land. And that made me think of the schools where the teachers have to pay their own flight. Would you take a job at a school that required you to either buy your own flight or you paid for the flight up front and they reimbursed you?
I wouldn't mind that. I've done it before. Yeah. You have to just know, there are schools that Okay, what's the reimbursement period? Is it on arrival? Is it a week after with receipts? Is it first paycheck? Okay, if you get there August 14th, right? First paycheck is August 31st, but they're not going to pay the flight until the next month, September. That's a problem, right? But if you get it back in the first paycheck, then I don't see an issue with it. I think that's more of an HR issue. Why are they requiring their teachers to do the legwork for them, and all they want to do is just show the money out? That's indicative of a larger issue, and further down the road, you'll see they ain't competent.
Yeah, I would agree with that. How has teaching abroad changed you?
I'm more assertive. I am more confident in myself, like my abilities, my body, my aesthetic, like just everything. I am more empathetic, a lot more patient. Good God. The amount of patience you have to work in the Middle East and in China, it's ridiculous. But yeah, more patient. I am more resourceful. I'm very resourceful now. Like, to the point where it's crazy. My communication skills have gone, they've really increased since being up abroad, because now I know how to give clear, concise directions.
Okay, so you're not talking about your communication skills in other languages. You're saying
no,
how you speak English to people.
How to communicate a message to where it can be received with no or little to no issues. Body language, how to, if someone speaks English but not really, how do you get the point across without frustrating both yourself and the person who you're talking to? And then I also want, the last thing I want to say, because it's I give long answers all the time. I can't help it. I've learned more about myself through others. Like, now it's easier for me to connect with people because I realize that, like, we're all the same, more in a sense. So it's like when I go new places, it's easier for me to have a great time and really enjoy myself because I'm realizing that I'm seeing like commonalities within people. So I've learned how to be a better traveler.
All right.
I can go on. I won't, but I can.
Well, I appreciate you taking a little time out of your vacation to talk to me. Do you want to share like Instagram or Twitter? Like,
my teacher in this Instagram is Math by Megan. That's MATHBY Feel free to request me, follow me, not spam me.
Here's my interview with Tiffany, who I met when I lived in Mexico City as well.
You live in Cabo in Mexico.
Yes.
Okay, where are you originally from?
From Sumter, South Carolina.
You teach in Cabo. Is that your first international teaching job?
No. So I've been in Mexico. This is the third year. But this is my third school since going to Mexico. So the first 2 years I was in Mexico City.
The school that you're at now, what kind of school is it?
So it is an IB school. It's private school. It's listed as the #1 school in Cabo, in Baja, California.
So would you say it's an international school? Because, I have worked at places.
It's listed as an international school, but it's not an international school.
Okay.
I would say it's not.
Okay, but your clientele, they're Mexican, yes?
Primarily Mexican.
How long did you teach before you went abroad?
10 years.
And what made you decide to make that jump from Sumter to teaching abroad?
I remember I was at this perfect school and I wasn't being challenged. And I said, oh, it's a diverse school right by a military base and, wonderful students. Everything was perfect. The school made a shift in administration. And I don't know if she came in wanting to make a point. And I said, oh, time to go. So I go to another city, and I decide I can commute. It's not far, and I decide I don't want to teach English anymore. I want to teach theater. Loved it. Loved it. I worked in like this majority of the students were Black. I said I may have had, out of the 200 students, I may have had 4 white students. And so the first year, it was, adjustment when you go into a new school and the kids are used to, a high turnover rate. Second year was really good. Third year came around, and I had been with the students. Like, my class was audition based. I was in the zone there. And I remember the first week of school, the principal came and he said, we have a new dance teacher. And I look over and I see blonde hair, blue eyes, young white teacher, fresh out of college, just graduated maybe 3-4 months ago. And he said, what I'm going to do is, I've decided to take your students, the ones that I've had, this is my 3rd year with them, and I am going to place them in her class. I'm sorry, what? So he's like, they've been performing, they know like the element of performance and how to behave, so we can make her transition easier. And I'm going to give you some students. I need you to whip them into shape. I said, yep, that's it right there. That's my last straw. Because I got tired of being that dumping teacher. Oh, she can handle the kids, send them down there to her.
Yeah, because that's what they do to good people.
Exactly. And I said, you know what? I was like, I can't do another year like this. And so I started thinking, you know what? Let me weigh my options. I looked around at school districts. I said, you know what? It's going to be the same. I'll be there for a year or two, and I'll be like, what is this? They'll do the same thing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go to another country. And at first it was a joke, and then it turned into like a reality. Like, I'm serious. Like, every week something was pushing me out the door. And I said, it's time to go. And that's how I made my decision to leave.
In no other industry that I know of are people who excel at their job rewarded by being given, like the sucky assignment. Mm-hmm. No other industry.
Right. And I was tired of it. I said, I can't, like, I'm tired too. I want to have these perfect classes too. You don't know what I go through to get the kids to that point where they respect me and they're ready to learn. And it really, I know, it broke my spirits. And I told him, I was like, I worked hard. I had to start fresh just like she did. And nobody made any accommodations for me. So that was like the last straw for me.
What would you say is the biggest difference between teaching abroad and teaching in the States?
I feel like at times my school is 10 years behind all of the schools that I taught at in the States.
How so?
With everything from resources to technology, the structure. Like, I often sit there and I'm like, and I come up with like, why don't we try it this way? And they're like, oh, wow. And I'm thinking, nobody ever thought of this? Because I didn't originate this idea. Like, it's something we did at my old school. It's just like very simple things, anything from like grading, making a schedule. And I'm just like, how is this something that's brand new to you? So I think that was the biggest, like the shock factor for me. They just seem behind with a lot of things.
Now, is that just the school in Cabo, or would you say that was your experience at the other 2 schools in Mexico City as well?
It was my experience at all of the schools. And I don't know if it had anything to do with, maybe it was implemented at one time, but we know like international schools have high turnover rates. So a lot of things disappear when people leave. So I was like, maybe that's the reason why. Simple things. And I would say, so y'all didn't do this last year? Like, how are we developing new stuff every year? I've yet to figure out like how that works.
And I also wonder, is that Mexico? But I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. But I have a roommate from Argentina, and she told me, she said, yeah, that's Mexico. She was like, because we don't do that in Argentina and we don't do that in Ecuador. And I was like, interesting. So, people that have been to other countries are like, yeah, it's just Mexico.
What would you say is the best part about teaching abroad or living abroad, either one or both?
I think um, my students, behavior wise, like it's not the same issues that I had in the States. The students are wonderful. Like to hear at the end of the day, thank you for teaching me. It means a lot. It means a lot for students to say that. And then like on a personal level, I feel like I've grown as a person. I'm willing to take more risks, and living in Mexico, like the material things that I valued when I was in the States, I don't value them anymore. It's more so about the experiences, and it's not about the material things anymore.
Flip side of that question, what would you say is the worst part?
I'm not good at making friends. I'm finding that out. I'm just, I'm not good at this. And there's times where like I want to do things and I'm just like, oh, but I wish I had like a group of friends to do it with. I think it was easier in Mexico City for me because I had like my group and everything, and there's more people there, more Black people. And then here in Cabo, the few Black people that I see, they're there on vacation. So it's hard. Like I don't see any Black people, and it bothers me because I want to be able to say, girl, you found any natural hair products, or can you come help me take my braids out? If I ask like somebody there now, you help me take my braids out, that's not your hair. Like they would be upset. So it's different. It's that social aspect, not having like your own little tribe to hang around.
Because I was going to say, now you could make a friend with a rock. It's not that you can't make friends, Missy, but yeah, I would imagine that leaving a city with 20 million plus people and going to Cabo, that is going to change things a little bit. Are there any other ways that you would say that teaching abroad has changed you or changed your life?
I think I've grown as a teacher, especially this year, because you have, although like in the States you have different levels in your classroom, this year I have students that may not even know how to ask me to go to the bathroom. And so I really have to figure out like ways to adjust to help those students, even though, they're not fluent in English, they're still in this IB class. They're still expected to read The Great Gatsby and understand it. They're expected to do all the same work as everyone else. And I remember like the first couple of weeks saying that's not possible. But I'm watching little by little, like at first, like I cried about it, I was frustrated. And then I was like, you know what? They're not gonna do anything about it. So you have to figure out a way. So like I've changed up like with writing my curriculum and coming up with my own resources. And I've been like very proud of myself, able to adapt to this situation. So like I feel like I'm looking at things on a different level, and I relate to those students as well because I know what it's like being here, not understanding what's going on and not understanding what's being said. So I empathize with them. So I think that has made me not only a better teacher, but a better person.
Now, I know you teach like English, language arts, drama, that sort of thing. Now, did you have any formal ESL training?
Nope, none at all.
And I'm going to assume that when you were offered the job or when the job was presented to you, it was not necessarily presented that way, that, hey, you need to have some skills to work with second language learners.
Child, let me tell you, what I am learning about these schools is they won't lie to you, but they're not going to give you the whole like story. So I'm sitting there, we laughed about this a couple weeks ago. I said I was speaking with the director of schools, and he knew just where to put his laptop so I could see the palm trees in the back and the water. And I was focused on that. And I was listening to him, but I was watching this palm tree dance. And I said, oh, that's going to be me. And I was set on Cabo, not asking detailed questions like I should have. And when I got there, my mind was blown away because the school took in a large number of scholarship students from public schools that never spoke any English. So I didn't know the school had the #1 soccer team. So they were recruiting. And I happen to end up getting all of these babies that don't speak any English. And they're just like, make it work because they're here on scholarship.
So
No
what
one told me that.
So what are some, oh, I have too have taken a job and not asked the right questions. So what would you say are some of those, because I'm hoping that people wanting to do this and hear what you're saying, and what would be some of those questions that they should be asking, no
I
matter
think
where they're going, what's something they should be asking?
I think I messed up when I didn't ask to speak to other teachers working at the school. Not just one teacher, but I want to speak to several teachers, especially American teachers. But at this school, I'm the only American, so that wasn't an option. Um, Also, just asking like for foreign teachers to find out about, oh, is it possible to see pictures of your apartment and for you to tell me what you're paying for the apartment? Can you tell me about, for me, I know like I'm going to ask for my like Lexium scores, like their reading levels for the classes. Can I see last year's test scores or their map scores? Like I want to see that type of stuff so I can gauge like where your students are. And technology. I mean, I didn't know until I got there. I don't even have a classroom of my own. I share my classroom with 5 other people. We have one computer that the 5 of us share in that room. There's no office, so when it's time for me to plan, I sit outside at a picnic bench when I don't have class because there's no teacher's lounge. There's nothing there. The numbers have increased to the point where they don't have space, and so I'm just sitting here like I didn't know any of this. So it's little questions like that. Like once I figured it out, professional development hours, like ask those questions because you'll never know. How often do you meet? How often do you have your faculty and staff meetings? We meet 4 days a week. Nobody told me that, and I didn't think to ask that question.
What? Who would think the answer would be 4 days a week?
Right. And every meeting I said we still hadn't accomplished anything. We still on the same thing every day. About your coworkers. My principal speaks no English. My IB coordinator speaks no English. Half of the teachers there.
Wait. The IB coordinator does not speak English. Isn't the entire IB program in English? Wow.
I am the position that I have. I teach English part-time, and then I'm in charge of visual and performing arts. Tiffany did not think to ask these people if my department speaks English, and they don't. Everything they turn into me is in Spanish. I did not think and I cried. Like I said, I cried those first couple of weeks because I was like, these people hired me. I can't do nothing for them. I can't. I can't do this job. Like we're literally people translating everything that I say. And I'm sitting here like, I can't stay here and do this.
But here you
It's
are
not fair to them.
So
Yeah, I'm doing it.
that says a lot about you, that you found a way to do it.
Yeah.
I tip my hat to you, girl. I do. Wow. Okay.
So you have to ask those questions. You have to make a list of things, and it's the smallest things that you don't think to ask. You have to do it. We often think about salary and housing and insurance, but it's how often do you meet? What type of technology will be provided? Can I see a copy of your curriculum that you're using? Those type of things like you need to ask.
How long do you think you'll stay abroad teaching?
I don't know. I was having this conversation with my mom. She's ready for me to come back. I have another year to finish out this contract, and I really want to stay in Latin America, but I'm not sure, if I'm going to come home for a little while or I'm not sure how I'm going to do this.
Why do you like Latin America?
When you start learning a little bit of Spanish, you think you have arrived. So I feel important when people come visit me and they just asked you if you need blah, blah. I feel important when I'm translating. So I think now that I'm learning about the culture and I'm a little more comfortable with the language, I'm a little more confident. versus the first year there when I was just like, nope, not leaving out my house, not doing anything. I'm a little more confident, like, to travel alone and do things alone.
Well, I ask because I find that when people start to ask questions about going abroad, they want to go to Dubai.
Right.
They'll be like, oh, but I can go to China. I hear the money is really good.
But it ain't always about that.
No, it is not. It
If
is
you can't, I like my freedom and like living my lifestyle. If I want to go out drinking, or if I want to go party, or if I want to do something and I don't have to question, am I breaking a law? Like, I don't want to have to question if something's going to happen. So like, I get it all the time. Well, I heard the pay wasn't blah, blah in Mexico, but the cost of living, like that, it offsets everything. So I've been able to save so much more here than I was even able to save in the United States. I've been able to travel more. I've been able to do more. And honestly, yeah, I do, I wish I was around more Black people, but I feel like Latin America to me is more welcoming than other places that I've been in. So it's more like they see the beauty in Black people and they appreciate it. That's what I've experienced abroad. Like, especially here in Mexico, it hasn't been, it's little things here and there, but once you educate them, say like, okay, you shouldn't say that, that's offensive and blah, blah, blah. They get it. But that plays a big part too.
that you can even have that conversation, because that's one of the topics that comes up over and over in the Black expat in China group or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
is that people get, rightfully so, they get upset when people are staring, people are taking their picture, people are trying to touch them. But I agree with you, the difference between here in China and in Latin America, they want to engage with you as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say, hey, don't touch my hair, or you say, don't use that word, there is a conversation. There is no conversation. Even if I spoke Chinese, and they do this to white people too, because I work with somebody, a white South African, and he speaks Chinese, and he will tell them, no pictures in Chinese, but they're not seeing any foreigner really, I think, as people. It's more of, look at this weird thing. Let me take a picture so I can go show my friends. There isn't that engagement. So no, I definitely understand that. Do you have any other advice for someone who wants to teach abroad? And I'm talking about certified teachers. I'm not talking about TESL and TEFL people. I'm talking about somebody who has like a state certification from the US.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing, like when I was making that decision, was outside people who had never probably been out of the state of South Carolina. Why would you want to go there? Oh, it's not safe there, or this and that. Like, find out on your own. Don't listen to what others have to say. Because if I would have listened to what other people had to say, I'd still be right in Sumter, still teaching, still miserable. Find out on your own, like, take that leap. And here's the thing, if it don't work, move back home. Like, I honestly, that my mama said it best to me, because I was telling her like, oh, this and that. She said, you can always come back home. You know what, you're right. I can always go back home. And I make that comment when we sit in those meetings and somebody say, y'all know I can always go back home. Like, that's an option. Like, I've never been the type of person like, oh, I can't do this, I'm not gonna be able to finish. I've always wanted to finish out things, but I got the mentality, my happiness comes first. So you do what you have to do. And I think people often think, well, I can't leave my mama, or I don't want to leave this person, or blah, blah. My mama's 74. And it took me like a while, like, to say, you know what? God got her. Let me go and let me live my life, because I don't want to live it with regrets. So I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people just don't want to take that leap. They're scared to do it. And I was too. I was on that plane crying, like, what have I done? Why am I doing this? I'm going to just go back. And I cried like the first 2 months I was there. And then I was like, you know what? Enjoy this. This is an experience that a lot of people wish they could have. So you just got to do what's best for you. and not think about what others are going to think or what others want you to do.
Is there, let's say somebody sees this and they're like, you know what, I like that Tiffany. I wanna connect with her. Is there a place where people can connect? Or somebody says, hey, I wonder if she has a business I can support or anything like that?
Yes, they can connect with me on social media. My Facebook is Tiffany Holmes. I also have I make homemade scrubs, body butter, earrings. So I have an Etsy page. It's called Naturally Dope 803. So either one of those, contact me, reach out, buy something. So I'm all for like organic products. So all of my stuff is organic that I make right at home. And I ship in Mexico, and I do free shipping in the United States as well.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Tiffany. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
And finally, here's my interview with Tia. This was just this week, so that's the beginning of June 2020. So the backdrop, we've got the recent deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, along with the protests that are taking place. So, yeah. Where are you right now? Where are you located in the world?
Now I'm in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. Of course, people still get it confused with Dubai. I do not live in Dubai. Dubai is an hour and a half away. I actually have to get in my car and drive to it. Two totally separate things, but I live in Abu Dhabi right now.
Okay. And where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Gastonia, North Carolina. Small town. It's outside of Charlotte.
How'd you end up in Abu Dhabi?
I would say happenstance, but I know it was just God and his timing. Honestly, one of my mentors that I had in college, he reached out and basically told me about an opportunity for PE teachers in Abu Dhabi. He knew another alumni that had went to my school that was asking if he knew, anybody that had finished the program that was looking for a new experience. And I had just a year or two previously done my student teaching in Germany. So I had been bitten by the travel bug, and it was just kind of like, yes, travel is what I want to do. So he knew that I love to travel and I like, adventure and new experiences. So when he let me know about that, that was around April, and I applied to work in Abu Dhabi. I honestly only knew about it from Sex and the City. I'll be honest. I had saw their latest movie and they were in Abu Dhabi. And I was like, oh, that seems like an amazing place to go. People are super rich. Like, oh my goodness. And after that, I ended up over here like a month later. I had my interview. I got my contract. And within less than 6 months, I was on a plane and on my way here to teach.
So we're going to have to circle back to you doing your student teaching in Germany, because that's the first I've heard of that. Okay, so is this your first teaching job ever? Is this your first teaching job abroad?
Well, like I said, my student teaching, but that wasn't paid. So yes, technically this is my first teaching job abroad. It's not my first teaching job, period. I was teaching in the States actually when I applied to come here. And the crazy thing about the timing was that I had just received a contract extension for my school back home in the States when I applied to come here. So it was kind of like, do I actually move abroad when I have a pretty stable job here? And it was just crazy. But an even crazier thing is that I've been teaching in the UAE longer than I ever taught in the States. So I don't know why, to me, that's just a little mind boggling. Like, really? So yeah, this is my first teaching job abroad though.
Okay. And so what kind of school is it that you work at?
I'm currently at a private international school. So when I first came here, I was contracted to teach in a government school. So about 90% or more of the students were locals, Emirati students, and there were a few students that were maybe Sudanese and from a few different places. They actually have to pay to come to the government schools. It's not many of them. I taught there for 2 years and for 3 years. And for the past 2 years, I've been at an international school. So it's a little more diverse. My students are from everywhere: Egypt, Jordan. I have a few American students, some Canadians, Irish students, from Sudan, all over Africa, even some Chinese students and things. So the international schools are definitely a lot more diverse. And there I am the PE coordinator at my school. So athletic director for Americans.
So how long had you've taught abroad for, it sounds like a total of 5 years?
Yes.
Okay, so how long had you taught before you moved abroad, before you moved to Abu Dhabi?
I was creeping up on 2 years teaching in the States. I taught some before that. I was a graduate assistant. I taught fitness classes and things like that, but certified to actually teach, just under 2 years was how long I had been teaching in the States before I came here. And I was so blessed to be able to get this position because most of them ask that you've been teaching for a minimum of 2 years before you come here to teach. So I was so blessed that I was able to kind of slide under the radar with my year and, almost 2 years experience.
Year and some change.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to ask, why did you go abroad? But you've kind of already answered that when you said that, you were into travel and you had done your student teaching in Germany. How did that happen?
Another thing, I call it happenstance, but it's just, I really feel like my life is just ordered. My steps are ordered. I had this one, with the teaching in Abu Dhabi, I have been bitten by a travel bug. Teaching in Germany, I traveled here and there, nothing like major outside of the country. But again, one of my mentors, there was a position with the Department of Defense, and they were offering to, let students come to complete their student teaching in different fields from all over the world, from all over America. And my teacher found out about it at the time, and she just asked a couple of us, if we were interested in it. And I applied, and I honestly didn't even think about it until they sent me back an application and was like, "You're approved. You can come to Germany, in September." And I was just kind of like, "Whoa, wait a minute, what?" And after I went, it just being in the culture, and I actually lived on a American Army base, so I was around Americans all the time, and I taught American students. But just being in the culture, being able to go outside of base and go out into the town, going to Nuremberg and going around Frankfurt and different things like that, it just opened my eyes up to so much. And being in Germany at the time, I was able to use money that I had coming in from school to travel to these places that I had only read about in books. And I think that's what really set my soul on fire to move in or work in or living abroad, because the access just to I traveled to like 3 different countries while I was there doing my student teaching in those 3 or 4 months. And I hadn't even traveled outside of America being there for 23 years, so it was just amazing to me, the access to travel and how much I could just learn just being on this side of the world.
I mean, I knew of the DoD schools, but I never thought of them as a place where somebody could do their student teaching. So that's super cool. Yeah. Did you have to pay for your airfare to get there and your living situation, or was that part of the program?
I did have to pay for my airfare, which sucked as a college student because that was like $1,500 at the time. And I wasn't as savvy in looking up things as I am now, like looking for flight deals and things. I'm sure I could have gotten it for so much cheaper. But at the time I had a credit card and I was like, I'm charging it to the game because I'm going to Germany.
That's
I'm just
right.
gonna have to pay this off. And it took me some years while I was in college, and being a teacher, because we make peanuts, to pay it off. But that was the best investment I could have made in myself. And the school actually ended up giving me a scholarship for like $500 or something like that, which, I mean, I appreciated it. It couldn't cover my flight costs, but like I said, that was an investment that I made into myself that I was happy to do. And as far as the living expenses, I didn't have to pay. I stayed in a dorm on campus, well, on the base, for some of the time, but then I kind of got into it with my roommate that was there. My boyfriend at the time came to visit, and she knew he was coming. She said it was okay. And then when he got there, she started making complaints to like our supervisor and stuff, like that she was uncomfortable with him being at the house. And it was just a whole mess. But again, like I said, I think my steps are ordered by God, because one of the teachers that was at the school, who I'm still so tight with till today, he actually had room in his house. His wife was a cheerleading coach at the school with him, and I coached with them as well. They let me come and stay at their house. They had a separate like wing that allowed me to have my own room. I had my own kitchen in the house, my own bathroom. So it was so perfect. It was amazing. But yeah, I didn't have to pay for housing at all while I was there.
Wow. And where did you go to university? Because
I went to
this is a lot of opportunity. I'm sure somebody listening to this is like, dude, where'd
yeah.
she go to school?
I went to the North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University in Greensboro, North Carolina.
What would you say is the biggest difference between teaching in the U.S. and teaching abroad or teaching in Abu Dhabi?
If I have to narrow it down to one, there are so many things that are different, but I would definitely say for me, it's been diversity. And it's kind of hard to narrow that down, because in the States, I taught at a Title I school, so everyone looked like me. Growing up, I went to schools that were, I guess, kind of mixed or whatever, but being here, especially teaching at an international school, is so diverse in the different cultures that I've been able to learn, the different people that I've been able to meet, especially living here. I've realized how ignorant I was to so many different cultures and people's backgrounds before I moved here, because I just didn't know. I honestly just didn't know. I work with people from all over. Like I said, the students are from everywhere, but the teachers, they're so diverse. And I've just learned so much about, like I said, just different people's backgrounds and their cultures. And it's been an amazing experience to talk to these people, learn about where they're from, who they are, and then even put that into my travels. I've met so many people that are from places that I didn't even know how to pronounce. I didn't know it was on the map. And now I'm like, oh, I have to go and travel there because I know this person. They've given me recommendations for it. And now I want to go and see this, and that because of the people that I've met. So the diverse nature of the people that you can meet living abroad is the biggest difference from teaching and living in the States for me. Although they call the U.S. a melting pot, I think that you kind of get stuck in, depending on where you live, you just get stuck with the people that are in that, city or that state, and you kind of don't get that melting pot feeling. So,
what do you wish you'd have known before moving abroad to teach?
That I would be here so long. I think if I had known how great of an experience it was, I probably would have planned differently. I wouldn't change anything. Everything has been amazing. But had I had known that I would be here as long as I have, I probably wouldn't have went balls to the walls, like traveling as crazy as I have over the past couple of years, because I kind of thought when I got here, like, okay, 2 years is my contract. Let me go travel as much as I can. And then when I go back home, I would have gotten that off of my shoulders, and then I could start being a responsible adult and saving and, buying a house, planning to have kids, blah, blah, blah. But those plans didn't work out like that. And I just fell in love with being here in the UAE. And granted, I have been able to save and things like that. Don't get me wrong, but my plan for how I saved and how much I traveled would have been different. I also probably would have set up some different business ventures for myself differently based on how long I've been here. I had a business back home, a cheerleading business. And like I said, I thought I would only be gone for 2 years. So I was like, I'll just put it on pause for now and I'll come back and pick it back up. But had I known I would be here for pretty much a long haul, I might have left those affairs to someone that could have handled that business, so that could have been some residual income coming in, and I could have continued to serve my community back home. So just knowing how amazing my time would have been here would have been great. I think I wasn't scared when I came, but I think I let a lot of people's opinions about the Middle East kind of make me think, well, 2 years will be enough. I don't think I'll be able to handle any longer than that. But what they told me was not what it was or what it is here. A lot of people were like, it's a war zone over there. It's so dangerous, or you're going to go there and convert and they're going to make you wrap your hair up. And most of those things, I was like, so if I have to wrap up my hair for 2 years, I'll be cool. Like, it'll be a great experience. I'll get to learn something new. But everything the people said was just kind of like, you haven't even been outside of North Carolina. How can you tell me? So I'm glad that I experienced it for myself. But like I said, I wish I would have known the amazing experience that it would have been before I came, so that I could have planned a little bit differently.
What is the best and worst part of teaching abroad?
Ooh, the best and worst part of teaching abroad. Okay, I'll start with something bad so that I can end with something good. The worst part for me for teaching abroad, especially during times like this, is that I'm not with my family. It sucks having to call home and just make sure everybody's okay and not being able to physically touch them like we do. I talk to my family every day, whether we are doing FaceTime calls or in a group text and stuff. We have communication every single day, and that's great. But a hug from my mama would be amazing right now. With everything going on in the States, I have been struggling. They say, ask your friends if they're okay. I haven't been okay. I broke down crying the other day, and just to have been able to hug my mom or see my nephews and hug them and love on them, that would have been amazing. But just not having that closeness with my family is the worst part for me. And I'll be honest, there aren't many horrible things. Now, I will say this, it's not the worst thing, but some of the things that just kind of make me go a little cringe sometimes is the breakdown in cultures. As a Black woman, I'm used to certain things back home and with my culture. For instance, with the students, back home, I could give my students a look and they sit down or be quiet or be like, okay, I'm sorry, or they get in line. Here, I kind of had to get my students in shape for it. And I was so happy this year. I walked down the hallways and some of my students were cutting the food, and I just looked at them. And they were like, oh, I'm sorry, miss. And I went to my office and I rejoiced because I was like, yes, they finally get it. They got it. But just the cultural breakdown sometimes is a little frustrating. But, when in Rome, you learn how to deal with what you are given. So that's the worst part of living and teaching abroad, is missing my family and sometimes the cultural norms. The best part of living and teaching abroad, one is the money, I would say. Like I said, in the States, they pay us peanuts, which honestly, I make the same that I would be making back home, but tax-free money, because I'm not making like hundreds of thousands of dollars, which will be great, but I can deal with it for now. So the money, we get free housing here, which is amazing. They cover that. Not having to pay rent is great. And the opportunity to travel. That's the best part for me. I am a travel queen. I'm a slave to travel. I love it so much. And being here just makes it so easy to get to the places, like I said before, when I was in Germany, that I only would dream about or that I would read in books or see in movies and stuff. And now I'm looking at movies, and it's so funny. I'll look at my boyfriend, we'll be watching something, and we'll be like, we went there before, or we know what that place is. And it's just amazing to be able to have that type of privilege and have that type of access. And that's the best part for me.
Where you're located is just incredible for travel. That's to me, that's one of the best things about being in the Middle East.
Oh yeah, because you were right. You were in the Middle East too. So those tickets are cheap to certain places, and you can do a weekend easily. When in the States, you'd have to take off a whole week to account for transit time and all these different things. So
Yeah.
it's amazing.
How has teaching abroad changed you?
I would definitely say that teaching abroad has given me new perspectives to just different people. Like I said, the cultures, because I wasn't exposed to a lot of different things when I was at home. Teaching abroad just opened up my eyes. I kind of feel like a kid in a candy store a lot of the times, soaking in so much information. My first Ramadan here, I was just so humbled in the fact that I was able to participate in such an amazing thing. And then I look back on it, talking to my mom, and she's like, well, this person is Muslim, this person participated in Ramadan. And I'm just like, I had no idea that it was like this. And it's just such a humbling experience. Just being able to learn from different people and being able to put myself into situations that I didn't have access to back home.
How long do you plan to stay abroad teaching?
Hope my mom doesn't listen. Forever. And let's put a note in that. That's not necessarily teaching. Just how long do I plan to stay abroad? Because I don't know how long teaching is going to be, but I do plan on staying abroad for. I'm international now. Now I'm an international student. I'm just traveling forever. So I hope that my travel ventures take off to where that's what is funding all of my travels, and one day maybe be a digital nomad. Who knows what it's going to be, but I have no plans of permanently returning to the States. And if there's no other time that I would have said that this is the time with everything that's going on in the States, no. To visit my family, that's about it. And at one point I said that, once my kids got to a certain age, then I would move back so that my family could grow up with them. And I still would love for my family to grow up with them. But the fear that I have for my sons and what will one day be my husband living in the States, I can't even fathom it right now.
What advice do you have for someone who is considering taking the plunge into teaching abroad?
For anybody out there who is considering it, the first thing that I have made my motto is to just Nike it. Just do it. You always have somewhere to go back home to. Like, whether you're from the States, from wherever around the world, you always have home. So just do it. That's my thing. I would definitely say to research where you're going before you decide to go. Definitely, if the thought comes in your mind, hey, I'd like to move abroad, you have already taken a major step. So research where you want to go. And when I say research, when we talk about things that we wish we knew, there's some things you won't be able to find on the internet. There's some things that you'll just learn by doing it and going out to live abroad. But, make sure that things are in line with who you are as a person. Like, before I moved here, like I said, lots of people tried to deter me because this is a Muslim country. And if I had to listen, I probably would have never came here to be able to see that, yes, a Muslim country, but so many Christians live here. And no, I don't have to wear an abaya every day. I don't have to wrap up. I can still be free to be who I am. So I think, like I said, researching and just doing it are the big things that I would say. Make sure that you have some type of income to sustain you, the first few months while you're getting there. Even if you're not going to do a contracted job, at least save up some money so that you can be able to support yourself. And yeah, just do it. That's my main takeaway for it. Just do it. You always have home to go back to.
I'm just curious. Do you think Tia from 6 years ago would have been so, oh yeah, just do it? Or do you think that has changed a little bit?
Yeah, because Tia from 6 years ago just did it. When my professor told me, when this is nothing that I would never tell somebody to do something I didn't do myself or that I wouldn't do myself. But when my professor gave me the information to apply, I applied that same day. And literally 3 days later, they were like, oh, you have a phone interview. And then a week later, it was like, you have to go to New York to do your next interview. And I got my dad to drive me to New York on the day. Wow. Like I said, at the time I was with someone, but he graduated from his master's program, and I couldn't even go to his graduation party because I just did it. I went for my interview. I went to graduation, and then I got on the road and went to New York for my interview. And thank God that I did. Thank God. So yes,
Wow.
Tia 6 years ago would have said, just do it. And Tia
Okay.
today says, just do it.
Now, if somebody is curious and want or interested in following your travels or connecting with you, how would they do that?
You can follow my travels on at Tia Takes the World on Facebook and Instagram. I get a little bit into Twitter here and there. If you want to follow, it's What's Next Tia, What's Next Tia. And then I have a travel blog and it's tiatakestheworld.com. So you can follow me on all those platforms. I'm getting into Pinterest a little bit, so you can follow me at Tia Takes the World on Pinterest as well. It's not as active, but Instagram and my blog. Oh, I also have a YouTube that's also Tia Takes the World, and you can follow me on those platforms.
Thank you so much, Miss Tia.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. If you want more information on that DoD program that Tia mentioned, or the links to my ebook or links to Tiffany's Etsy store, go to the show notes page on the Picky Girl Travels the World website, which is also linked in the description, pickygirltravelstheworld.com/podcast hyphen dash and the number 2. If you would like to show support for the podcast, you could leave a review on whatever podcatcher you happen to be listening to this on. Or if you would like to support the podcast in a more tangible monetary way, there is a link. Is there a link? You can go to Anchor and you can make a pledge there. You can, I believe, donate as little as $1 a month. Thanks, guys. See you next week.